Hello and welcome to Frontrunner Motorsport. We are under a week away from the start of the 2025 Formula 1 season, and so it's time to cross the I's and dot the T's. And by that I mean we need to do a livery review, previews for Formula 2 and Formula 3, the end of our Lotus series, predictions for the forthcoming season, and of course talking about the Formula 1 come Sunday. We of course start with a livery review of every Formula 1 car on the 2025 grid, and I know what you're thinking. Didn't we already do this when we talked about the F1 2025 launch event at the O2? Well, we talked about the show, but I didn't really talk about the liveries on purpose. And whilst not a lot has changed from last year, we will be looking at the subtle changes made to each car, starting with the worst and working our way up to the best. So make sure you subscribe, especially with all this quality Formula 1 content this week, and let's jump into the video. Red Bull. It was my worst livery last year and it's barely changed, so guess what? It's my worst livery of 2025. I've spent hours looking at it, well, minutes, and the only minute detail I can see being slightly different is the red line stretching slightly further along the body than it was in 2024. Same reason as last year, it's a boring, tired livery that I have seen every year for the last couple of decades, and I now actively hate it. And I hate Red Bull, so I guess it fits. This is the top car of this generation, and it has one of the dullest stock liveries going. Hardly a crown befitting a king. McLaren. Every time I do a livery review for a series with McLaren in, which is most of them, I have to look at this livery in some form or another. They've ruined the papaya livery by adding way too much black and arranging it in a pattern that just dulls the whole thing. Orange and black works. We've seen it on a lot of cars previously. So why do a majorly successful racing manufacturer screw it up so badly? A better pattern, more orange added to the livery, somehow working the sponsor logos in a bit better. There's a lot you would need to do to fix this and even just make it a respectable livery. Not much has changed. I think the only difference is the MasterCard logos on the front wing, and even that looks terrible. Again, MasterCard have a good livery in their history. How do McLaren make their cars look so bad? Mercedes. This is more of a case of over-designing your car. Again, I have had this complaint with Mercedes before, but they haven't fixed it, so I'll rag on it again. Silver or black? Not both. Why have you printed a load of shurikens on the back of your car? Is the turquoise line necessary considering everything else going on with this livery? At least they painted the airbox silver this year. The red really didn't fit. But there is just so much going on, and yet it's also bland and forgettable. But if you picked one design element and just expanded it to the rest of the livery, like if it was black with turquoise trim, or black with silver Mercedes logos, but all of it together looks really unpleasant. Ferrari. Well, we might as well get all the big teams out of the way first. It takes genuine effort to make a Ferrari into something that is of the same substance as a bloated corpse of a dead pig, and somehow they've managed it. Bad years for an ugly car too, it being the 75th anniversary of the first Ferrari in Formula 1, and the debut of a 7-time champion finally joining your team after years of anticipation. Can you guess what I don't like? Yeah, it's the HP logo, in a slab of white, so bold and annoying. They stuck it in other places as well. I get HP are paying a lot of money for this placement and white is their colour, but there must have been a better way to blend it in. The yellow and white lines that broke up the red so nicely last year are gone, just to make space for this monstrosity. The problem is, Ferrari have one of the best liveries in racing right now. They should use it in Formula 1 too. Williams. Not too much has changed from last year. The blue is somehow slightly bluer, if that makes sense. It is a very slight improvement, but there is nothing special about this livery at all. 2 shades of blue still make it just a blue car. Something like a gold trim between the different blues, serving as both a nod to Williams' liveries of the past and a sign of future, if very hopeful, ambitions. Even the Duracell battery airbox looks diminished compared to last year. No, this is in the middle of the pack because it's a middle-of-the-road livery. Reminds me of a Formula 2 Carlin from a decade ago. Haas. Another boring effort from the American team. I really want them to have the stars and stripes for their livery because that is an identity. And with another American team joining the grid, they should assert dominance. Instead, more black and white, with more white than black this year. There's some neat red trim added as well. It's dull as dishwasher, but I would call it harmless and inoffensive. Visa Cash App Racing Bulls. It sure is white. They have definitely painted their car white. I have put this as my 4th favourite livery, and it says a lot about this 2025 grid that I still don't really like this livery very much. But with so many darker coloured liveries on the grid, the plain white car with bright Red Bull branding does stand out. It's a complete rebrand again for the Red Bull B team, their 3rd in 5 years, the only really different livery on the grid. It has a small amount of blue at the back of the car, and it is the perfect amount, not overbearing, but a distinguishable pattern from the rest of the car, and the tiny little balls is a very neat touch. I don't like the Red Bull branding on the airbox. I feel like there's already a Red Bull car on the grid to do that, and there's surely something else this company can advertise. It's okay, but it does look like a Red Bull test livery from several years ago, and they'll probably rebrand it again next year anyway. Steak Sauber. Now we move on to the 3 liveries I do actually like, starting with Steak Sauber, and possibly the final time we see this livery before Audi turn up and paint it a really boring colour, because I guarantee they will. I like the bright green and black. I did like it last year, but by moving all the green to the front and all the black to the back, they have improved the overall look tenfold at least. It looks somewhat like an IndyCar, and the lack of sponsor logos dotted over the car, just a few state logos, means it's tidy and eye-catching. It's not a really good IndyCar, more of a Juncos Hollinger, a back-market IndyCar team. But IndyCar is more colourful than Formula 1, so this is a step in the right direction, before the car gets painted silver with 4 red rings on the side. Alpine. I've complained for the last few seasons about Alpine having a pink livery for a bit and then the blue livery for the rest of the season, and apparently they were listening because they just combined the two and it's a lot better. I especially like the pink BWT logo in the blue of the car, although I'm not sure the black outline was necessary. If there are a few things I would like to see changed, why is the Alpine logo at the back of the car white? It would surely stand out more if it was also blue, and that goes for the other white logos on the car. Should have either been pink or blue depending on the background. But other than those small complaints, I do like this livery, much more than any Alpine livery from the last few years. At least they decided on one livery for a change. Aston Martin. Once again, this livery is my favourite on the grid, not necessarily because it's so great, no other livery can get near it, but more so because all the other liveries just aren't very good. And this is a good livery, exact same things I said last year and the year before that. These colours scream Aston Martin. It is easily recognisable as an Aston Martin and has become the iconic livery of modern Formula 1. I do have one word of warning. Airbox. That airbox painted white brings the whole thing down a notch. Let's not fiddle with its livery in ways that make it so much worse. Best on the livery front again, but I still don't think this is the best Aston Martin livery ever. It's an 8 out of 10 livery at best. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below on the 2025 Formula 1 liveries. Very disappointing that there are so few changes to last year's liveries and that so many of them are worse. I truly think this is the worst looking Formula 1 grid for a long time, possibly ever. Even the 3 best liveries are only good, not amazing. Hopefully all 11 teams do a lot better in 2026. Make sure you subscribe. I have more Formula 1, 2 and 3 content coming out all week. You don't want to miss that. Thank you very much for watching and for all of your supports, and have a good one.